I picked up a 259D just about a week ago, and during this last week I've found out a lot of different things about this machine. Some things I like, some things I don't like. I'm going to go over those in this video today and show you some things that I haven't seen any other videos about, things that you need to know about this machine. So first thing I want to talk about is this undercarriage right here. It's connected right here and right here by a torsion setup, and basically that makes these tracks ride independently from the cab of the machine. So these tracks are able to, when going over obstacles, kind of move around a little bit. And I was aware of this when I bought it, but I wasn't exactly sure how the design worked. And after looking at this, I mean, in theory it's a good idea, but anytime you have moving parts that have grease fittings, you're basically opening yourself up to another wear item, something else that can wear out, something else that can go bad, and these will wear out. And I think I might have actually found a way to measure the wear on these tracks. Something that I started noticing is that this track is slightly tilted in, and it seems to vary in degrees whether I'm backing up or going forward. But this side as well, it's just ever so slightly tilted in. And once I noticed this, I immediately thought, oh my god, I bought a machine with some heavy extreme wear. I got ripped off. But I actually went to my cat dealer and looked at some other used machines and measured the amount of basically toe-in of this track, and I found some other machines that had a lot worse, and I'll show you how I measure that now. So basically you take your level, and if you put it up against the track, you can see right now, you can see that it's quite a bit in right now. But if we move this out to get to level, this might have been because I was going forward, but you can see that this is pretty significant. And I think it has everything to do with if the machine is turning or backing up or going forward. These tracks apparently change the camber quite a bit, because I've actually never seen it this far out, but it must have something to do with the way it was turned. Now let's go check the other side. Now if I compare it to this other side, it's actually quite the opposite. It's actually sticking out further at the top of the track than the bottom of the track. So you can see how much. I'll actually move this bottom out. Okay, now I got it level. Top's right up against, bottom's kicked out a little bit. So basically what I'm getting at is these tracks have a lot of movement in them. Just another thing to wear out. I mean, yeah, it gives a nicer ride, but longevity, I feel like a lot of things are sacrificed for smoother rides and more comfort, quote unquote. And if it makes the longevity of the machine less, I'd rather have the machine last longer. That's more comforting than having a suspension track system. So I'm basically not exactly thrilled about this setup. Another big thing about this machine right off the bat So I picked it up and I thought, okay, let's change the fluids. Let's change all the filters, go through the machine once. And I went to my local cat dealer and I told them, give me a fuel filter, oil, and so forth. And the service manager replied, oh, you're gonna need a fuel pump. More than likely your fuel pump is out and will not reprime the fuel filter once replaced. Well, I went back without the fuel pump, and sure enough, fuel pump was not working. So I'll show you where that's located now. If you look in here, directly behind, this is the main fuel filter. Directly back here, there is a transfer pump. And basically, to my understanding, this pumps diesel out of the tank and primes this filter. So if you were to take this filter out, you would not have a way for it to reprime, basically wouldn't be able to start. So sure enough, mine was out, so I went back and $180 later I put in a fuel pump. Now there's some other videos, if your machine needs this pump, there's some other videos out there you can watch about how to replace this. It's pretty easy, definitely something you can do on your own. But wasn't thrilled that just to change the fuel filter I had to buy a $180 pump, which basically was like a $230 fuel filter change. Now I don't know if it's going to do this every time, but definitely not too good. And surprisingly enough, once I reinstalled this new fuel filter pump, it didn't work. And I'll show you why now. So we're inside the cab now, and apparently when my fuel pump went, it took out a fuse with it. So if you remove this back panel, there's a list of different items on here that have fuses, and if you look toward the bottom, there's one right here marked fuel. So after my new fuel pump didn't work, I went to the fuse panel, checked this fuse, and sure enough, it had blown. So at this point, that's a little scary. You know, you're blowing fuses at your fuel pump, which is pumping diesel fuel, which must have shorted out or burned up or for whatever reason blown that fuse. $230 fuel filter change turned into a trip to AutoZone for a fuse and a new fuel pump, just to do basic service so far. Here's the pump itself taken out. It just plugs in. You have to unscrew a brass fitting at the top right here and put it in the new pump. And there's a filter at the bottom. Yes, mine is fully clogged with what appears to be rust. Probably someone filling this machine up with a fuel tank in the back of a pickup made of steel. Steel tanks seem to always rust inside. I use an aluminum tank. When I changed this out, there's actually a little nipple that goes at the bottom of this, which broke off inside my fuel line. So I had to cut a very small piece of the fuel line off in order to get some pliers on this nipple that broke off to pull it out. So cheap plastic bottom. That's all just to change a fuel filter. Quite extensive, I think. There's something clicking like a watch all the time, key off. I don't have a main battery disconnect. I looked into buying one. Main battery disconnect would be here, but there's something inside here running and basically clicking like a watch. Very, not very loud at all, but something is constant in there, so that's pretty scary. Another thing, these tracks, I like how this is all open. That's great. You can clean it, beautiful. But they kind of miss some attention to detail. If you look behind this plate, right in here, there's an opening straight into the underneath of the machine. So when I flipped my cab up, there was nothing but mud all along the bottom of here, and it's made its way in through these holes right here. It's on either side. Just kind of a poor design, I think, especially with having this hydraulic line here. You get a guy in here cleaning these tracks out with his shovel, and maybe he doesn't know that there's a hydraulic line back here, and you know, he's stabbing away getting the mud out, and you know, you hit this hydraulic line with this hose, you're gonna put a hole in it, and you're gonna be stuck wherever you're at until you get another line on there. And that means we're gonna have to flip up the cab, go down inside here, change this out. I mean, this one isn't as bad right there, but I mean, who wants to be doing that? So to me, that's kind of a poor design. I think that should be all hidden. I think this plate right here should go all the way up and over this line, keeping all the dirt out of the inside of the machine and protecting this line. This is something that you don't want to get damaged. So now I'm proceeding to do an oil change. And first thing, there is a cover on the bottom of the machine. And after removing that, this is what I see. Yeah, fully packed with mud. Lovely. Just what you want to see on the bottom of your oil pan. Hell, that might even be oily mud, like it leaked. Could have. Fully packed full of mud. Leaves, zip ties, this is the filter right here, sitting. There's just sensors everywhere. You can just see them. This sensor right here. That's right where you have to work. Alright, I got the filter out. That was about the equivalent of this machine giving birth. Trying to get that out of there. I think I'm going to do something pretty unorthodox. I'm actually going to leave this cover on this fuel filter while I drop it down in here, because I don't want to get dirt in there, and I feel like once I get it in position, I can just peel this off. So I'm just going to leave this on. I know I'm supposed to oil this gasket, but I'll do that once I get it down in position. But I'm going to leave this plastic on, getting this down in there. Alright, it's on. 3 gallons of cat oil in it. So we got to get these to where the bottom one is here. We're going to drain these out. Fill both sides. Got the right size Allen wrench. Just put it in, tap it in a little bit. Little tap does it. Take this bottom one out first. Just gonna let these drain. I don't know if you can see this, but this final drive oil has just ever so slightly a metallic-y flake in it. Nothing crazy, but I'm told this is normal. You guys let me know what you think. It's not terrible, but it definitely has a tiny bit. If you catch it in the sun just right, you can see it. All this has to be cleaned out. This is one of the things you see a lot with buying a skid steer. The guy that owned this before just wasn't, sorry to say, but very bright when it comes to maintaining a skid steer or taking care of stuff. Not an ideal person to be buying a piece of equipment off of, but this particular unit only has 930 hours, so he didn't own it that long himself. So try to catch everything up. So ultimately, I like the machine. What I don't like is pretty much anytime you have a problem and you call your dealer for any kind of support, they say bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. None of them want to take the time on the phone with you to help you figure out issues, and it costs so much money. $125 an hour they want. So I'm going to try to fix everything I can on this machine, anything that breaks. But I'm sure I'm going to pay the price taking it in at some point or another. But it is, all in all, a pretty nice machine. I'm sure I'll have a lot of videos in the future with this. I'm excited to have it, but I'm also very scared of this machine at the same time. It's so advanced, so many sensors, so many things to go wrong. And a lot of it's just stuff you got to plug into a computer to figure out. So let me know what you guys think, what kind of issues you've had with it, things I should check on this. Hopefully those couple things I showed you help. Fuel filter issue, tracks. Alright, let me know guys. Let me know what you think. Alright.